I want to thank Deke from AG Roads, because I wouldn't be here if it weren't for what they invited me to. And this is an exciting moment because I've been doing LTC Heroes for over a year and a half, and I interview a lot of amazing executives like those of you in this room. And I really think that I have an amazing job. But what I like most is coming to conventions, because I get to see the eyes and the face and tell these stories and help what I think is a unique bunch of leaders in the United States, because we're not particularly good at telling your own story. I always say when I'm interviewing executives, take off your humble hat, because part of your mission is telling you what's unique about you. So as a way of a segue, I want to ask you, Kathy, you've worked with senior living executives for a long time. Do you have the same perception that it's hard for them to sing their praises, to celebrate what they're doing? Because I think that that's critical for us to change the perception that people want to work with them.
Yeah, I do. I think that there's, especially at the executive level, there's we have to make sure we're presenting everything as should be, because people are trusting us with their parents. So that is a huge responsibility. So sometimes I do feel like when I work with people, I want to make sure that they are on point, because we're working with your parents. So yeah, sometimes I do see a little bit of that, but I've started to see, and I think COVID has helped this, we're all starting to be a little bit more humble, a little bit more connected, a little bit like, when we were doing that, we weren't doing it as well as we should have, and now we're doing it better. So I think the conversation has changed in the last couple of years.
I want to bring up a couple items that you shared in your keynote, and one of them I think that I'm going to twist, and I want to see if you agree. And another one is a challenge for this room, speaking specifically to taking off your humble hat. When I get on the pre-interview with leaders and I'm trying to figure out what we're going to talk about, their successes, it usually takes about 20 minutes for very, very successful CEOs and C-suite executives to be able to start to talk about what they're great at. And every single person in this room has 2 to 5 things that you could help someone else in the other side of the room with today during a coffee break or when the bar opens in the evening. And I would challenge you to start thinking that our team, similar to what Kathy was saying, our team is not what's inside of your building or inside of your facility. Rather, it's inside this entire room. Our team is this entire LeadingAge Georgia. And so where I wanted to transition to is when you were talking about resilience, you talked about the rubber band. My mind immediately went to, what if the rubber band is our organization's mission? And I started to think about your mission, your family story. Is it a stretch to say that our resilience is greater if we're able to explain our story as part of a mission?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think there are people out there right now who are all about, what is your story? We want to know people's stories. We're connected by people with stories. You don't remember the 5 tools, but you remember the stories, right? We're human by our stories. So yes, I think the more that any senior living executive professional can do is, why are you in senior living? Well, I watched my grandmother go through this. I watched my mother care for my father, and it was too hard on her. I want it to be better for other people. Yeah, our stories are hugely important.
So I want to ask you what stories you've learned from long-term care, because before this morning we were talking early and I said, how many, speaking engagements do you do with senior living? And you do anywhere from, 10 to 30 a year. What have you learned from senior living that goes home with you in the way that you are a mom, a wife, a member of your community? What have you learned from people like this in the room?
Wow, that's a good one. Well, first of all, I love senior living. I was telling several people earlier, when I started this, I have a background in banking. Yeah, I was a bank trainer. That's like fun. So I was a bank trainer. And so when I first started speaking, I did a lot of speaking for banking, accounting, engineers. I was like, these people aren't that fun. Like, you got to hang out a little bit. Not that they're not fun, but it was just different, a different thing. And then as soon as I started doing caregivers of any sort, I'm a caregiver for 20 years. I watched my parents as they've aged. I've got a father-in-law who's in dementia care right now. Caregivers are special people, and they are better listeners than other people. They aren't as concerned about the me that other industries might show. So I would say that one of the things that I see when I go out and I engage is they really do care about the mission. And I like to say it, the grandmas, the grandpas, the frail, the fragile, the people who are working with them, they are special people. They have big hearts. So more than anything, I've learned that at every level, I did a program for a senior living organization, have about 35 locations. And do you know that the CEO started it with a devotion and talking about caring? And I don't think you get that from a lot of other organizations so it's at every level.
I want to get your opinion on something I've shared with Jenny Hilms several times is I think one of the things that we need to do in long-term care to battle the staffing crisis is talk about the amazing intangibles that it is to be a CNA in this industry. The things that we take home is way more human than a paycheck or days off or bonuses. There's something that we take home in the stories from the seniors that we care for. I'm interested in the clients that you work with. What are the simple ways that you see them improving their staffing solution if you see them doing it through recruiting, through retention? And I specifically want to go back to simple, because a lot of times we can overcomplicate things and we're going to walk out of here and say, I can't do that. I don't have that budget. Will you share some insight of what you've seen from some of your clients that are doing a great job?
Mm-hmm. So I referenced a study that had been done with 2,800, more like frontline in senior living. And the number one thing they said was concern for them is we're stressed and we're going to burn out. It doesn't cost a lot of money to instill in an organization that twice a day for 5 minutes, you want to encourage your staff to have some deep breathing, or you want to introduce them to a meditation app, or you want to say, it's okay, I want you to go walk for 5 minutes, or I want you to, those 5-minute, reminders to take some of the stress off is so important. It shows that you care about the person and that there's their number one concern. In a recent Huffington Post article is about why your organization needs wellness. Why do you need a wellness program? Because your people are coming in stressed out, burned out, maxed out, worn out, and next they walk out. So saying we care about you, you're in caregiving, we care about you. The next thing that was on that survey, besides that they're burned out, stressed out, is that they actually fear for their health, because this is a taxing, it can be physically taxing at some levels. So we want to make sure that our teams understand that, and even if it's just saying, hey, involving someone, hey, we want to organize that, healthy lunch thing where everybody brings a recipe in. That's something that didn't cost anything. It's engaging, it's improving the team. It's also saying we care about your health and well-being.
Early this morning, you said, I tend to talk about mental health right away at the beginning. And I was like, oh, hooray. I'm also consider myself a cheerleader for mental health. And in many speaking engagements that I've given to MBA programs, I talk about mental health and my journey. I find when I'm interviewing executives on LTC Heroes, they feel comfortable talking about mental health when the camera's not on, when it's not recorded. So I'm happy that you brought that up. How do you feel that long-term care is embracing this? It's 2022, right? Do you feel that we're making progress? Are you optimistic? Do you feel that the leaders are leading the way that they should?
And that I'd have to say no. They really would. The people I've worked with, the organizations I go to, again, I bring it up and they might say, well, our healthcare plan allows for 2 sessions. You can go talk to someone for 2 sessions. I'm like, well, are you talking about it at a level, or does that person actually have to go to HR and request it? There shouldn't be barriers to it. And that's what I'm still finding. There are barriers to getting that mental health help. And I think that we could be doing a better job at all levels, and just acknowledging it, saying, hey, you look really stressed out. What's going on? And I understand you don't want to become the therapist, but you want to be able to say, we have some resources.
I want to give you all a little bit of insight into what LTC Heroes will be doing tomorrow in the exhibit hall. We'll have a booth where we'll be interviewing. I already have 4 people from this room that are booked. Your friends, your peers, your leaders, your cousins and sisters, and from LeadingAge, Georgia. It's fun conversation. And Jenny and Deke specifically asked me, said, I want to make sure that we're working on changing the perception that the general public has, and also potential future CNAs about why they should come into our industry and why our industry is unique. So I try to get to understand your long-term care initiation story and then get to know you as a person. I find that a lot of times as professionals in this industry, we forget to explain that before anything, we're humans. And this is a human-to-human industry. When people ever say to me, oh, you're in B2B or you're in B2C, I said, no, I'm in human-to-human. And I'm really lucky. I'm 40 and I get to talk to 80-year-olds. I don't even know what you call that industry, but that's lucky. And so tomorrow, when you swing by the booth and you see me interviewing Jenny, and you see me interviewing Karen, and you see me interviewing Mark, there's going to be some fun rapid fire questions. So I'm going to throw a couple at Kathy. I didn't warn her for this 100%. One of them I think she knows because she's listened to it. Kathy, if you had the opportunity to put anything on a giant billboard outside of Pittsburgh that millions of people would see over a couple of months, what would it say and why?
Yeah, he did say this, and now I've changed my mind several times on this. I think it would just say live with joy. I'm kind of powered by joy. My daughter's middle name was Joy, and I've done a lot of work around that word. And if we come into everything that we do being joy-centric, you find it everywhere. You really do. So.
That's easy segue into the next one. What are you most thankful for today in your life?
Oh, I do gratitude every day. So just to pick one, obviously it's going to be, faith and family and all that good stuff. But in this context and what you know about me, I would say I am very grateful for my daughter. As much difficulty and some pain that brought me, which is that stretch, that thing that stretches you. My life would be so much smaller without having that experience. And that's one of the things I love about, the stories that you hear in long-term care and with working with seniors. There is some pain in there. You see families going through that pain, but that joy that comes out of it, I think that's what I'm most grateful for.
Well, as an author, this next question is going to be really easy for you. And I'm going to remove one answer, which is you can't say your own book. What book or books have you most gifted in your life?
There is a book called The Gift of the Red Bird, and it's kind of an old one, and it is about a person's journey after she lost her husband and infant child in a car accident. And this was kind of right after, I knew that something would be wrong with my daughter, but I have gifted that to a lot of people who've gone through a difficult transition. The Gift of the Red Bird.
I'm going to jump in because I'm an ambassador for this book, The 5 Languages of Love. Game changer book for me. I think I've gifted it over 25 times. My wife says, why did you just order 10 used books from Amazon, all with the same title to the house? Just because I have to give those out soon.
I love the love languages. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that book. Yep.
Kathy, thank you so much for helping us start off LeadingAge Georgia and being an inspiration, focusing on simple tools, things that we can do better for resilience. Appreciate your time.
Great. Thanks for having me.